What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of Belle Collective Season 2 Reunion Part 2. So we have reached the end of Season 2, and it was a cute little episode. I did enjoy it. I did like it, and I want to see Season 3. Anyways, let's get into it. So we start off where we left off from the last episode, which was when Carlos King was about to reveal the results of Glenn's DNA test to see whether or not he fathered a child with his mistress. So the results are in and they are negative. So he is not the father of that child. Glenn was so happy. He was so excited. He was so thrilled that he wasn't the father. And I know more so he probably was happy because he wasn't going to have to pay child support. And Letitia was extremely emotional. Her whole body was like just shaking and trembling. I guess she just, I don't know, couldn't believe it. I'm pretty sure she was also very, very happy that the results were negative because money is not going to have to go outside the household, to take care of another child. They can keep the money within their home. Now, for me, I don't think it really mattered if Glenn was the father or not because it does not negate the fact that he cheated on Letitia, that he was a low down dirty dog for being unfaithful to his wife, being deceitful to his wife, and putting his wife's health at risk. Because if he wasn't the father, but this woman, said that he could have been the father, or that he was the father, then this means that this woman was not taking precautions or not practicing safety with whoever the hell she was sleeping with. So she was being with other men unprotected, being with Glenn unprotected, and, dumb Glenn could have given something to, Letitia that she couldn't get rid of. So it was just awful. It's disgusting. The cesspool of possible STDs it makes my skin crawl. And to me, there was really nothing to celebrate of him not being the father because the fact still remains that he cheated on Letitia. And I feel like that the only reason why Letitia even knew about this affair was because this woman was claiming that Glenn was the father of her child. If it wasn't for that, I don't think that Letitia would even know because I don't think Glenn would have confessed to her or would have come clean to her that he was cheating on her. And the fact that he said that this was the only woman that he was ever physical with, lies, 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 the lies you tell Glenn. So, yeah, I don't really see it for Glenn. I'm not rooting for Glenn and Letitia to get back together. I think Letitia could do so much better. She's a very intelligent woman. She's accomplished. She's very poised, very confident, and her business ambitions it's wonderful to watch. It's wonderful to watch her becoming this beautiful butterfly, becoming a better version of herself and not just Glenn's wife, not just a housewife. She's out there doing big things, and I just don't see Glenn being as supportive as he should be. Carlos King talked about how sometimes, some women in some marriages are suppressed. They can't be who they really want to be because their husbands are intimidated by that. Their husbands just want them to be housewives. They don't want them to pursue anything outside the home. And so they don't follow their dreams. They don't accomplish their goals because they're so worried about losing their husband to other women if they're always gone working outside the home or they're always gone, making things happen, that their men are going to get upset. They're going to find companionship in other women and all this other nonsense. And I know that happens. And obviously, this does happen, but I don't think Glenn is that kind of man who can appreciate Letitia for who she is. Who I don't think Glenn is the kind of man who appreciates who Letitia is now. I think Glenn is still expecting a housewife. And I think that I don't know. We just have to wait and see. But my gut tells me that Glenn is not willing to accept the new and improved Letitia. He wants her to be the way she used to be, cooking and cleaning, waiting on him to come home, catering to his needs. And then in the dark of night, he sneaks out to go be with the women of the streets. I just don't see it for Glenn. Excuse me, and I don't see it for this marriage, but it is what it is. If being with Glenn makes Letitia happy, hey, I love it. Moving on. I don't know why they were talking about whether or not Cliff had ever slept with one of Jay's ex-wives, back in the Stone Age. Who cares? He wasn't married to Latrice back then. What does it matter? Why are we even talking about Cliff hooking up with one of Jay's exes. I have no idea. Anyways, then they start talking about Demond and Taisha. And Demond insists that he and Taisha had nothing to do with one another. They were just friends, nothing more than that. Tambra says that Taisha was trying to get on the show, so she was using the storyline about Demond cheating on Tambra with her. She was using the storyline as a way to get on the show. She even went as far as to approach one of the producers and tell them that she had a lot of dirt on the women on the show. That's how desperate she was on getting on this program. So Tambra never saw it for Taisha, doesn't believe Taisha, doesn't believe that anything was happening between Glenn and Taisha. Nobody really knows except for Glenn and Taisha. But when I listened to Tambra, I was kind of like, okay, maybe what she's talking about is a little bit more truthful. Maybe it's a little bit more closer to what actually went down, because nothing was ever said of Taisha and Demond's relationship other than they had an emotional connection. And you can have an emotional connection with people that you are not sleeping with. You can have an emotional connection with friends. You can have an emotional connection with associates or coworkers or whatever. It doesn't mean that there's some hanky panky going on. And the fact that she stuck with that term, emotional connection, like she wasn't going to go as far as to say, yes, we're having a full blown affair. Yes, we're sleeping together, because Robert didn't want to get sued for defamation. So she kept it cute and just kept it within this little box of, oh, we have an emotional connection, because that can imply so many things. Just let your mind run wild. It can be whatever. And so if she was ever held to the fire, she can easily say, well, I never said that we slept together. I just had an emotional connection. And friends can have an emotional connection. Anyways, so Taisha was really full of it. Everybody was basically in the, had the consensus of, yeah, Taisha was really full of it. Coming to find out, Taisha and Letitia used to be sister-in-laws, because Taisha was married to Glenn's brother. And I'm wondering, like, why wasn't that mentioned on the show? That would have been an interesting little tidbit to know. Moving on. Carlos King asks Tambra and Demond if they're still together. They said they are. They're living together. They're still trying to have a baby, but they're trying to go the natural route and not, get medical intervention yet. And also, there was no talk of marriage, which I thought was kind of, peculiar, because Tambra and Demond promised Tambra's parents that they were going to get married before having a baby. But they moved in, trying to have a baby, no talk of marriage. Moving on to Latrice and Cliff. They talk about whether or not Latrice wants to have a child or plans to have children. Latrice was adamant about that, saying, no, I do not want to have a child. It is not in my near future. It is not part of my equation. Cliff says that he's okay with that. He loves his wife so much that he's willing to support her in whatever the hell she decides, which is good. Carlos King commended Latrice for not falling under pressure to have a baby just because your family, your friends, whoever are putting a lot of pressure on you to have a baby. She's not going to fold. She's going to stand her ground, and she's going to do what's best for her. And right now, it's not the best thing for her to have a child. Whatever her reasons are, whether she has a fear of, Cliff abandoning his child and she's left as a single mom, whatever the hell her reasons are, she doesn't want to have a baby, and it is what it is. Moving on to the whole blended family thing. So they bring out So Gucci's daughter Dee and Jay's two daughters, because the other one was, competing or something. And they talk about this whole colorism thing. So during the season, when this whole issue was brought up, I felt like they kind of made it look like maybe Dee was bullied by her stepsisters because she was dark skinned, they were light skinned. But in actuality, I think Dee just noticed her stepsisters were treated better than she was by society as a whole. I don't think it was anything within the home. I don't think the parents were favoring the light-skinned children over the dark-skinned children. I think it was just Dee making observations on how her stepsisters were treated by the public in general. And Jay said that, his daughters are pretty well known because of them being on, Dancing Dolls, which was a very successful nationwide television show. So Jay kind of implied, well, maybe my girls got treated a little bit better because they were more well known. They were, I wouldn't go as far as to say famous, but they were definitely more well known because of them being on a television show and being part of this whole dancing group that was very, very successful, etc. So maybe that's what Dee was referring to. Colorism is definitely real. It does exist. I'm glad that Sanjay and her sister were not trying to downplay how Dee felt, but it just wasn't coming from them. As far as whether or not they are like all lovey-dovey, sisterly BFFs, no, they're not quite there yet. They're working on their relationship as sisters, but they're not there yet. They need a whole lot more dialogue before they can get there. So then they talk about Akeisha calling the women ugly, which was discussed in the previous episode, but this was more centered around the whole colorism issue. I think it was brought up that maybe Akeisha had called the women ugly except for Tambra. They made it a point to say that Akeisha, when she called them ugly, she was referring to all of them except for Tambra. So the question was, did you leave Tambra out because she's light skinned and you call the other women ugly because they were dark skinned? And Akeisha said no, it had nothing to do with them being dark skin. She goes, because there's ugly light skinned people. She goes, if you ugly, you ugly. And so she was like, no, I call them ugly because they are, not because they were dark skinned. Akeisha, you're so archaic. Akeisha, you are so stone age archaic. First of all, it's just tacky to call for a woman to refer to other women as ugly. That's just so tacky. Are you trying to get with them or something? They're not your type. You know, you wouldn't. What are you trying to say? It's just tacky. Anyways, I don't even have time to talk about Akeisha. But anyway, she claims that no, it had nothing to do with colorism. That was basically the end of the reunion. And then we get to find out what they're all up to. Marie said that she is still trying to help her mom. As long as God gives her and her mom another day, she will always try to help her mom get clean. Her son Jerez is playing basketball at some college on a basketball scholarship. So he's doing really well. Akeisha is still going to be working on Ferris Street. She says that Ferris Street is bigger than her. So she had to get some people together to help her out. So she got this group together and they're still trying to do this whole renovation of Ferris Street. It seems like Letitia is no longer involved with Ferris Street because she's moving on to other ventures, other business ventures. She's doing business consultation. She's doing real estate. Yeah, she's involved in other things. She didn't mention Ferris Street at all. And Latrice says that she just closed on her second building for, I forgot the name of her hair company, and that her and Glenn plan on opening 28 Airbnbs. Right now they have 2. So yeah, real estate is always, the way to go when it comes to, additional income. Good for them. All the women are doing well. The season was really, really good. I think a lot of important issues were touched. Infidelity, colorism, classism, a lot of stuff was touched in this particular season of Belle Collective. And I feel like this show definitely needs to come back. It can come back with the whole entire cast. I thought So Gucci was so funny. I think so. I kind of regret that So Gucci wasn't featured more. I think she does have the personality for reality TV. She really, really does. So if they bring her back, they need to really feature her more because she's the comic relief that we need on this show when things get too heavy. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please do not forget to rate the video. Let me know if you liked it, didn't like it, whatever. And if you like this content, go ahead and subscribe and I will definitely talk to you later. Bye.